101.1 HIRT-AFM, Roatan, Honduras, Blue Wave Radio. Now it's time for the Roatan Real Estate Roundup, presented by ReMax Realty. When you want to learn about real estate, listen here. And now the host of Roatan Real Estate Roundup, Russ Regentz.
Hey, hello everyone. This is Russ Regentz with the Roatan Real Estate Roundup. Today I'm joined by Tiffiny Hager and Michelle Breuer of our partners here at ReMax. So, good morning, everyone.
Morning, Russ. Morning.
So today's conversation is going to be about a very important topic, pricing your home when you're getting ready to sell. We have a lot of conversations about how to look at pricing or make an offer, but this is time to take a step back. And if you are selling your home, what exactly do you look for? What do you do and how to price it? What are the variables, etc.? So y'all, let's jump right in. What are the most significant factors that sellers should consider when they're selling their property? What are the biggest things they need to think about?
Well, I mean, here, there's quite a few things that are different than North America. I mean, so things do sit on the market longer, and time of year whenever you're listing really does play a part in that, thinking about the different influences such as whether it's high season here, rainy season, other political things, and, the timing of your listing. What do you want to add?
That's a big thing. Like slow season here, really there's very few people on the island. There's very few people out looking at necessarily buying properties. I mean, a lot of people that buy down here generally are coming from a colder climate. So in the summertime, they're enjoying their warm climate up north, and they're not down here thinking about buying homes here. So it makes a big difference. If you're listing your home in slow season, it's going to sit for a little bit longer, and you kind of have to expect that.
Yeah.
Yep. So what is slow season here? What is slow season here, y'all? What do you consider that?
I would consider it.
High season is when it's cold up north.
Yeah, pretty much.
When it's cold north, people are coming down to enjoy the warmer weather. So
right. What months though? What months are we talking about?
I'd say it starts getting slow here around May through the summertime.
We've been seeing a higher number of families traveling here during spring break and summer a little bit, but still overall and in general right now in October, September, October, people are kind of back to school. It's not really cold up north yet. Once it starts getting really cold, people come back down.
Yeah, they're not really on vacation mode right now.
Right. How funny how that first snowfall can spur people to come south, huh?
Right.
Hey,
but,
so quick question.
The other factors, though, that do influence is, the location. So, talking about rainy season, and because rainy season isn't always slow season, though, because it still is rainy as things do pick up. But, considering the location, whether it has a view, the road conditions to the home, those kinds of factors play a big part in the, how marketable the property is.
Yeah.
So
and how quickly it could sell as well too. It could add to that factor. And the most important is pricing.
Yeah.
That's
pricing,
really
pricing,
where we really
pricing.
want to focus a lot of our attention on, because, if depending on your motivation to sell, if you're willing to sit around and sit on it for a year and put it on the market for a year, then, all the power to you. But if you really are motivated to sell, you really have to think about what the motivation is. If, a lot of times people here have moved here, maybe they bought a property and unforeseen circumstances occur, maybe within their family. I know quite a few people in my age group that are going back to take care of elderly parents, or, there are other circumstances, or become grandparents, so those kinds of things can bring you to a place where you might not have expected. Often, we come here all thinking we're going to stay here forever and retire and everything, and I think we still think that. I do. I'm excited. But, once, you just never know what unforeseen circumstances can arise. So sometimes those motivations to sell are all different, but I think oftentimes here people have a little bit more of a sense of urgency. So pricing is very important.
Highly critical. So in y'all's experience, what are kind of the most common influences for sellers, when they're considering the price? I mean, kind of where do you start? How do you walk them through that process of coming to that right price?
I think that where sellers come in thinking is they're influenced by a lot of different things. Maybe they see things on the market for sale by owner or on Facebook, other things that tend to influence. They might see a house that's on the market for an extraordinary price and think because that house is on the market for that amount that theirs is also worth it. That's not the way it works. It could not be priced right, and that's why it's been sitting there on the market for a long time.
Sure.
So oftentimes people are taking these outside influences as just a guesstimate of what their house could be worth.
Yeah, and
Tiffany, you bring up a good point. Just because the house, 37 steps to your east or to your west is worth X amount of dollars doesn't necessarily mean that yours is. And I think that that's an important component, is to stay rational, realistic, I guess. Is that the right way to think of it?
And what's on the market isn't necessarily what it's going to sell for. So, rather looking at what homes in your neighborhood have sold for is a much better indicator of what your home could be worth, not what it's listed for.
Yeah, because anybody, anybody can ask any price they want for a home, but true market value boils down to what it actually sells for. And that's pretty much in anything. Market value is what somebody is willing to pay for something else.
Makes sense. So a true comp, a sales comp relative to a list comp.
Say that again, Russ.
I was just going to say, in other words, it's okay. A true sales comp versus a listing comp is kind of what I'm hearing you say, right?
You want to speak to the
100%? Yeah.
Yeah. And emotional attachment is a big one. People, we all buy the favorite house that we love, and we, are attached to it because we love that house. That's the house that we bought, I feel that way about my first house that I raised my kids in Portland. It was, it just has so many memories of, that I have attached to that house. And so to me, it was worth a lot more than what somebody else was. So I think that emotional attachment often, and that is true anywhere, but I think especially here, we're all buying into our dream. Not all. A lot of people live here before, but, it's buying a dream, and that's an emotional attachment that people have, and it skews the realistic. What would you add to that?
Yeah, well, I would also add, and it might be kind of bouncing around here, but some people, like Tiffany spoke about earlier, you're building your dream home to come here. So you put extra stuff into it. You put, higher end appliances, you put higher end finishings, higher end everything, which is great. And if it's your dream home and that's something that's going to make you happy, that's fantastic. But you have to realize that the person that's coming to buy your house, if something changes and you have to sell, they're not going to necessarily feel the same attachment to those, higher end finishings and furnishings that you put into the house. So you have to be willing to realize that you probably may not get that money out of it.
Sure. Makes sense. Well, I remember vividly when we were selling our house in Houston to move here several years back, the conversation, Tanya and I like to travel the globe, and we definitely collect art. And we had some pretty cool art that was around our house, and our agent said, no, take it all down. What do you mean? This is cool. She's like, yeah, cool to you.
Exactly.
She was very, very direct and blunt to it. And I said, you know what? You have a great point. 'Cause I'm more like that. I like the dream. My wife is just like, nope, that's enough. This is investment. Go. Let's just take the pure price. To me, it was more of an emotional decision. So, all right. So quick question then. All right. So if those are some of the things we've talked in the past about for sale by owner, Facebook, kind of the illusion that people can get by seeing some of those options, what should people be considering? So never mind what they think, but really, what are the main metrics and what should they think about when they're thinking of pricing their property?
Statistics.
Data.
Like go with a database, find things that have sold. We already just kind of touched on that. The best thing to go by is what has sold that's similar to your house in the neighborhood, the same price.
Mm-hmm. We as ReMax agents and other, Roatan Realtors Association agents are all part of the MLS. So we have an MLS system here that we can access all of that data and do a true, good comparative market analysis on that.
I think a lot of people, they do price things by what they see online, and they do price a lot of things, a lot of stuff that moves here, not moves here, but gets listed here or put up here, I find comes from Facebook advertising for people that have put houses up on for sale by owner groups. And I think a lot of sellers here base their pricing based upon what they see on those groups, which again, they show the price that they're asking for it. They never really show what it's sold for.
Right.
Because that's something that's different that's done with the database as opposed to an ad on Facebook. You're not going to say, I sold my house for this on Facebook. You're going to say, I would like this for my house for you to buy it from me on Facebook.
Yeah. So, it's really hard for, the average person to see what the house actually sold for. And oftentimes here, because as I mentioned in a previous podcast or interview about this, is that we don't have as many bank loans. So we don't have bank appraisals and other things that are playing into sort of regulating prices a bit more. When you are relying on bank loans, you have to, get a appraisal that's going to, determine how much you can pay for that house. And here, I think people willy-nilly pull out a number out of the sky, what they want. And oftentimes it's, I want to come out of it with this amount, this dollar amount,
right?
Because I've bought it for this amount, or I saw my neighbor get this amount, or I need this amount out of it because I want to go buy this other condo somewhere else. But really what matters is what somebody is willing to pay for your house. Bottom line here.
Yeah.
So I think oftentimes people do overinflate. I tell this to my buyers often, is that it's pretty common to offer not significantly less, but a fair amount less than the asking price here. Whereas in the States, maybe a 5% is more common to kind of stick by that, or it can be considered offensive otherwise. But here, I think because people are just picking numbers for a sales price. But one thing that people have to realize is because there are cash buyers, not a lot of people have $1 million, or if they did have $1 million, want to spend that on a property in Roatan necessarily. They might want to keep it in their other investments. They might not have it accessible because this is a cash market. Pricing it in a range that, cash buyers, that a good common amount of people have enough money to purchase, is important,
And those same buyers too, most likely, that do have like $1 million just laying around to put on something, they're going to do their research,
Right.
They're going to literally do their research. They're going to use the data.
Right.
They're not just going to
willy-nilly
drop it down on something because
if you're good enough of a business person to have $1 million, there's a reason that you have $1 million, because the reality is that you've earned it, made it. Well, and I think that's interesting because one of the things we had talked about in our last conversation with the three of us was the necessity of what y'all can do, which is called a CMA, that Comparative Market Analysis. And it just sounds to me, the more conversations I've had during the series of these interviews and these conversations with y'all, that seems really, really important to pay attention to that and not just get blinded. I know, like you said, Tiffany, I think you said it very well. A 5% discount in the States might be more appropriate, whereas something a little bit more a bigger discount might be more appropriate here because of the fact that there isn't such a structured, pricing mechanism. So
definitely CMAs are, really important. That's where we're going to pull up the comps. And it's not as easy here because it's really hard to find comps. It might be a beachfront property or a beach ocean view property. It might be, West End to Sandy Bay to, East End of the island. Like there's so many factors that play into the comps here. It's really can be tough. I mean, unless you're looking in, let's say, a specific development, or if it's a condo or something that's much easier.
That's easier. And one beachfront could be different from another beachfront. Totally different.
But
very much
at,
so. Absolutely.
Per square foot, which is important that we, factor in, and some of the other features such as a pool and other kinds of things that do add to the value of the home, depending on, the quality of the workmanship too.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that's really kind of important. And those are those, what we call pitfalls that sellers really kind of fall into. And just as we've reiterated here on this conversation today, the old saying, monkey see, monkey do. Just because your neighbor has a house listed for X doesn't mean yours is worth that. So you really want to be cautious, for sale by owner. It's another issue that you really want to be conscious of. So let me ask you, of all the pitfalls that you all hear when you're working with your clients, which one kind of comes to the top that us as sellers fall into the most often, do you think?
I'd say overpricing. I mean, it's overpricing,
Just sheer overpricing, the sheer dollar amount?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
definitely. I think, it's if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If your neighbor is telling you your place is worth $2 million, maybe even another realtor or an armchair specialist of sorts, somebody, could give, the idea, plant that idea of the value of the home. But, how the home was kept here, the weather can really take a toll on a property, on a home. Deferred maintenance is big. If what is the condition of the home? Your neighbors might have sold, but it could have been outdated finishes or more updated finishes, vice versa. It's really important to get those CMAs done and have a professional that can give you a good idea of what your home could sell for. And two, taking in consideration what your motivation is. If it is to sell quickly, then you need to price appropriately.
Yeah. And we have found so the market this year, a few months ago has been quite slow, considerably slow. Mm-hmm. But we have noticed, and actually Tiffany and I noticed this in one particular property because I went to look at it because I'm like, the price was just like, holy crap, I want to buy this. And I sold it. Yeah. So we went and saw it at the same time. And like it sold in like 2 days.
Less than a day.
Yeah.
Just a day.
So if anything, and the seller was completely happy. Anything that is priced correctly and anything that's priced correctly will sell. I mean, it really will. So if your motivation is that you need to move, then that is one of the things to look at. And there's another thing to look at too, like just general repair of the property. Tiffany kind of touched on it. Just, things you can do is just paint, like a fresh coat of paint, stuff that's not going to be a lot of expensive, not going to cost you a lot of money. It can make your home look a lot more appealing. And if it's appealing with the right location and the right price, then you have a winner.
And like what you spoke to a little bit, Russ, too, taking out those personalized things in the home. Maybe it's personalized artwork or your family photos or, your knickknacks and your personalized things. So really staging, decluttering, those types of things are really important, when you're selling, getting ready to sell, making sure that there are little things that can contribute to the value and the appeal by a buyer. I always tell people, look at your fixtures and could be just your towel racks and your faucets or those little things, fresh coat of paint and some new updated fixtures or, your cabinet poles or the little things like that can be a very small investment that can pay off significantly when you're going to sell the house.
Yeah. And kind of circling back to the high-end fixtures and stuff, like that's something, don't do that. Like don't do high-end fixtures when you're going to go sell your house. Just do things, update them, make them look nice, and make a world of difference.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that's one of the things that when we sold our house in Houston was at the actual height of the market. And so we had several offers on ours. So when that happened, our agent had said, hey, you might want to consider, because we were going to do a little upgrading the work, just make some, upgrade a few things. And she said, don't do it. You're at a situation where the market is very high right now. And, you really don't want to spend the money if you don't have to, which I thought was a very important statement. And sure enough, that is exactly what ended up happening. So, yeah, okay. All right, so let me ask you one last question real quick. As experienced realtors here, you get people, as experienced realtors, you offer, let's hit pause. I'll edit this out. Hold on real quick, you guys. Don't go anywhere. This is a guy calling me I have to take. I'm sorry. Hold on real quick. And I'll edit all this out. Don't worry about
it. Okay. Well, we bounced around, yeah.
I think that was very...
Yeah, no, totally fine.
Hello, it's Russ. Yes. Okay. 10 minutos. I'll be there at 10 minutes. 10 minutos, okay?
No, you won't.
Okay, muchas gracias.
We've not having house been in the market for a long time. That's a good. Because it's stressful for us too.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
That's okay.
And I'll edit that out of there. Don't worry about it. All right. So let's go to the last. Yeah, I know. I've got 10 minutes. I need to run down to Infinity. The guys that are delivering my windshield, they're doing it for free, but he said, hey, I'll call you when I'm in Infinity. And I thought, of course, it's going to be right at 120. All right. So let's ask the last question. What would you, as experienced realtors, offer people to get the most from the sale of their home? And let's just go through those bullets, and then we'll close from there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, so y'all, our last question for the day. This has been a great conversation, obviously, and I keep hearing, be realistic, work with professionals, get that CMA, and really listen to the professionals and not listen to social media or your neighbor. So, as experienced realtors doing well here on the island,
unless your neighbor is one of us.
okay, is you too? Okay. Anyway, no, that's a very good point. But what would you two, as experienced agents here on the island, what would you offer people? So in other words, what it is that you guys would do to get the most from the sale of your home. In other words, make the case for why a realtor is going to really be the best option for you all to get the most for your client's home.
I'm gonna point one thing out too that I think is really important. A lot of people believe that if they do for sale by owner, that they're not going to pay the commissions. Well, you will not reach a broader audience, and you probably will end up making a lot less off the sale of your house. Oftentimes, by using a realtor, we can get you a higher price point that is going to compensate for the realtor fees and sell at a much quicker. You won't have as much headache yourself too on trying to advertise. We'll do that all for you. So that's a big plus. But yeah,
and then we'll go in this, and also having a house. I know some people when they price their homes say, well, it's okay. I can wait. I have time. It can sit there. But the truth is, the longer your house sits on the market, it hurts you getting the most amount of money for your home because people look at it as a stale listing at that point. And what's wrong with it? And we see listings that have been on for 2 years. So it's so what, what's wrong with this? So that's just something else we'd caution at. And, and people get really stressed out when you're selling your house. It's one of the most stressful times that you're going through. So what we can do as realtors, the way we help is, first of all, we use a database to price the homes properly. So thanks to the RRA, we have database of everything that's sold, expired, listed, currently in the market that we can go by to get a general idea for your price. Actually, not general. It's probably more specific than grabbing a number off of Facebook, for example.
Sure.
So we do have a database to operate from. That's one.
Yeah, and we use each other too as a team. We have a really experienced team of realtors at ReMax that I confer with my colleagues on pricing. We all do. But also on top of that, we have what is like in the States is a brokers open sort of tours. Mm-hmm. So we have these open houses and brokers open tours where a lot of agents, even 30 to 40, sometimes up to 60 agents, will come and give feedback on the pricing. So it's important to know as a seller, if we're going to hold one of those and we're going to get feedback from other agents, it's going to really be an accurate feedback on pricing because, that's important, to use that knowledge from other people because we have a lot of good experienced agents here on the.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I love the tours because we always get good feedback on pricing and stuff. And they're usually bang on, actually.
Well, and I think that's interesting. You do that in addition to open houses that are geared towards the general public. So, those are geared towards generating activity, generating interest in the specific home. Whereas, the real estate tours amongst agents seems to me a good way to properly price it, kind of do some pre-work, for lack of a better term, to know what those other agents' clients are looking for. I think that's a really good 1-2 punch that y'all provide.
It is. And then on top of it too, though, that exposure, because most people are coming down here. A lot of people from North America are coming down here to shop during, a certain time period. Maybe they're here for a month. Maybe they're here for, a couple months or a couple weeks. But when we have an open house here and we have all of the agents come and see it, it creates that exposure. So then they are knowledgeable of that property. They'll share that information with their clients. They're usually, doing some video tours for their clients and so forth when we have those open houses as well. So there's a lot of exposure that way. But I think, even additionally, like ReMax, we syndicate our listings throughout the world globally. So your listing with us is going to be visible in a lot of different websites and locations throughout the world. So, we will have the highest level of exposure on the internet that you can within because we're a franchised worldwide company.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that's critical, and that's one of the reasons that we had wanted to partner with you all was the global expertise and the global exposure. Because again, ReMax is ReMax; it's known globally. So, well, I think today, we've had this has been a good conversation because again, we talk a lot, especially in this series, about buying your home, building your dream, buying your dream, and a lot of people don't think about how am I going to get out of that dream when it comes time for whatever reason. As you referenced, Tiffany, I thought that was a great point. Grandkids, caring for an elderly parent, health issues amongst ourselves. And I think that's really a key factor is people just think, oh, I'll just go out there and see what my neighbor says, unless it's an agent. I'll just see what my neighbor says and go off of theirs. And I think that's important to do your due diligence, not only on the acquisition side, but also on your divesting side. So, because again, we go back to it, Michelle, you and I have talked about this in the past till we're blue in the face. It's necessary to use an agent. You may think you're saving that commission, but in reality, you're probably not going to sell it for the proper price that you could sell it for by partnering with a true agent like you two at ReMax.
And it's a stressful time. We realize whenever, somebody is going to sell their property for whatever reason, it's stressful. And we want to take that load off of you. We'll get really great professional photographs. We'll, have good marketing materials and, really try to relieve that level of stress off of our sellers too.
Yeah, it is really everybody's interest to sell our clients' homes for the least amount of time, most amount of money, with the least amount of hassle. I mean,
we want that too.
Yeah, 100%.
we want it to go easy for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Smooth.
That's awesome. Well, today I've had the pleasure of having Tiffiny Hager and Michelle Breuer, two very successful agents with ReMax here locally on the island. Again, I'm Russ Regentz, and this has been Roatan Real Estate Roundup. Michelle, Tiffany, thanks for your time. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Russ. See you.
Thank you for listening. Remember, when you come to Roatan, one of the best ways to see the island and its beauty is a real estate tour. Reach out to ReMax. Listen next week at this time for the Roatan Real Estate Roundup on Blue Wave Radio.